John Scully kicked off the family secrets trial with a powerful opening statement. He dove right into the 18 unsolved murders dating back to the 1970s. He showed graphic photos of some of the victims, the Spilotro brothers, John Feccarata, John Mandel, Michael Cagnoni, Ortiz. He told the ladies and gentlemen, this is not The Sopranos. Now, aside from being found guilty of their crimes, all 5 defendants had to pay a combined $4 million in restitution to the victim's family. This included Frank Calabrese, Jimmy Marcello, Chuan, the Indian, and Joey. Joey had to pay the vast amount to the Seifert family. Now, to the very end, Joey denied that he had anything at all to do with the killing of Danny Seifert. But after he was found guilty, he had to pay $450,000 in restitution to the Seifert family. And the Seiferts found out later, along with everybody else, that Joey actually saved them that day. If he didn't go in there, the other killers would have killed everybody. Now, Frankie Breeze was very proud of the fact that he developed his own code that him and his guys would communicate through, and he referred to the Hambone hit as the Pit. He referred to the Spilotro killings as 1 and 2. He referred to Ortiz and the Polish guy killings as the Bean, and another one, half and half. Now, Frank C. wasn't the only one that talked in code. Little Jimmy had code as well, especially when Big Mikey, his brother, would visit him in prison. If they were talking about Joey Lombardo, they would reference Polaski, which meant clown in Italian. If they were talking about the Spilotro brothers, they would say Shivago. If they were talking about Pudgy Matissa, he'd make a big belly motion with his hand. No nose, he would touch his nose, and the trucker would be Mike Sarno. Now, Mikey Bones, or Michael Hambone, Albergo, he was a loan shark on the south side with the Chinatown crew. He also did some work in Cicero, Illinois. And at the family secret trial, the prosecution said that the Chinatown crew was the best killing crew. If they had to whack somebody of importance, they gave the hit to the Chinatown crew. Now here's Michael Hambone, Albergo, one of the 18 murders discussed at the family secrets trial. Michael was a close associate of the Chinatown crew. He was a loan shark on the south side, as well as in Cicero, Illinois. And he got subpoenaed to testify in a $250,000 juice loan indictment. Now, one day, Hambone was at the club. He was shooting his mouth off, talking about the upcoming indictment. And he said, quote, if he's going away, he's not going away alone. And he said that in front of several of the guys at the club. It got back to Angelo the Bull. Angelo the Bull gave Frank Calabrese the contract to have him killed. Nick Calabrese testified that Hambone was easy to trail because he had the same pattern, unlike some of the other victims. When they finally got a hold of him in the neighborhood, they threw a rope around his neck. Nick had his boot ledged against Hambone's head for leverage, while his brother pulled on the other end of the rope. After they strangled him, Frank Calabrese slit his throat from ear to ear. Now, Nick Calabrese testified that they dug a pre-hole, which is in the parking lot of the famous old Comiskey Park, right there in the neighborhood in Bridgeport, Illinois. And Nick testified that when they killed Hambone, he was so scared, he literally pissed in his pants. But luckily, he was wearing black and brown pants, so his brother didn't know. Now, on the second day of Nick Calabrese's testimony, he said that Hambone was very easy to tail. They knew his patterns, his routine, unlike other victims of them. And that one day they grabbed him, they threw a rope around his neck, they strangled him, and then Frank Sr. slit his throat from ear to ear. While Nick was saying this, Frank Calabrese was shaking his head with a big grin on his face. Now, the Sharky definitely had his hands full representing Frank Calabrese. Most of the evidence, most of the murders were against Frank Sr. But Joe asked Nick, if you supposedly buried him here by White Sox Park, how come when the government dug up the parking lot, there was no bones, no DNA? And, Nick really couldn't explain that. But he did get Nick to admit that Frank Jr. stole from his neighbors and was a crackhead. Nick Calabrese testified that him and his brother buried Hambone in a parking lot by the old Comiskey Park, which eventually turned into U.S. Cellular Field. But when the FBI agents had it dug up, there was no signs of Hambone. Nick couldn't explain that. The government alleged that Frank Calabrese may have moved the body. Now, Junior testified that one day he took a ride with his dad, Frank Sr. His dad was driving. They went past the old Comiskey Park where the White Sox play. He stopped at a parking lot, and his father gave him a nudge and gave him this look. And he knew that his father meant there was a body buried there. There's a fairly new state-of-the-art FBI building, Chicago division, right off of near Roosevelt and Ogden area on the west side. The FBI, after Nick Calabrese debriefed them, they went and dug up the parking lot. They found no DNA, no bones at all of Michael Hambone, and they suspected, but they couldn't prove it, that Frank Sr. possibly could have moved Hambone's body. At first, the government thought that Hambone might have turned into a hubcap at one of these mob-connected junkyard recycling yards. I'm not sure if it was ever searched, but this was a place where they think Hambone might have ended up. Now, Hambone's body has never been found. He disappeared in 1970. And there's been reports and rumors by his daughter and other sources that they may have dumped him here at the Metro Water Reclamation Plant in one of the tanks. The family, though, was happy that there is some closure with the Calabrese brothers getting convicted. Good evening, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're all doing well. Hope everybody's enjoying these good football playoff games. If you like my Chicago Mob Trial stories, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. I appreciate all your comments. And stay safe, and let's keep going.